Hi there, welcome back. Thank you for clicking on this video. This is Ms. Johnson's ELA Mini Lesson. We're on mini lesson number 5 today, and what we're going to focus on is context clues. So grab your materials and let's get started. Here we go. All right, so first we need to define what a context clue is, what context clues are. So basically, it is the clues that readers use to find out the meaning of unknown words in a passage, a story, or a text. So context clues is the items around the unknown word that you can use to determine what the meaning is. So if you have an unknown word, a lot of the times your text can tell you what the word is. So as you're using context clues, you're kind of using a magnifying glass, looking really closely at the text, and you're actually being a detective. You're being a detective because you're kind of looking closely before or after the word to try and figure out what things are. A detective looks at clues, context clues, in order to figure out what a word means. So there's 4 steps that you need to do to look for context clues to determine what an unknown word is. So here we go. As you find the word, what you're going to want to do is read the sentence with that word in it. A lot of the times the context clues can be in that sentence or it explains what the word is. Step number 2 is to think about what is happening in that sentence. So think about what's going on in the story, in the text, or in the passage, and really focus on what is happening. Maybe you jot down the things that are in the sentence that can help you start to determine what that word is. So the third step that you need to do is to find other words that may explain the meaning of the word. So sometimes you have to look before and after the word, the sentence before and the sentence after, to really get a clear picture on what that word is. In stories and passages, they'll use multiple sentences to define a word for you. So you have to look before and after, not just the sentence that it's actually in. And finally, step number 4 is to try different words in the place of the unknown word. So we call those synonyms. So try and replace it with a different word that means the same thing to see if you can kind of identify that meaning. Okay, so those are steps 1 through 4. What we're going to do is we're going to practice this right now. So let's start practicing. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to practice using finding context clues to determine unknown words. So you need your Weather and Packet magazine and you need your homeschool work packet. Turn to page 6 in Weather and Climate. And this page for your packet, this is the work that we're going to be completing. Close reading purpose. The directions say, annotate the text by circling unfamiliar words in Earth's weather and climate. Use context clues to figure out the meaning of the words in the chart. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words that we're trying to figure out. The words are weather, climate, measure, temperature, and elevation. So these words are words that are in our text that they actually define these words. So we have to go back to the paragraph numbers that it says, look for context clues, and then determine a definition. So let's start with weather. Weather is in paragraph 1. So I'm going to go back to paragraph 1. And look at that, I already circled it. I already circled it because I thought that was an important word that we were doing when we were doing our first read. Okay, so I'm gonna go do step number 1, which says read the sentence and circle the word. So I'm gonna go back into my text, circle the word weather, and I'm going to read the sentence. It says, weather describes the atmosphere's conditions in a certain place at a given moment in time. Okay, that's step number 1. Now, step number 2 is think about what is happening in the sentence. So it has the word weather and it has the word describes. I think that's an important context clue that tells me that it's going to be defining what weather is. And it says the atmosphere's conditions in a certain place at a given moment in time. So it's talking about weather is the thing that happens outside in the atmosphere for a certain time of day. So for noon, for 3 o'clock, for nighttime, okay? Now I can go back and do step 3 where it's find other words that may explain the meaning, the sentence before or after. So I'm actually gonna read the sentence before and after just to see what's going on. So the first sentence in the paragraph says, what is weather like? What is the weather like right now? Okay, so it has the word weather. I can circle weather again, and it's asking a question of what the weather is like right now. That helps me understand weather a little bit more, where it's talking about what's happening in the moment right now. Then it says weather describes the atmosphere's conditions in a certain place at a given moment in time, like right now, for instance. Climate is different. Climate describes the average weather patterns that are over long periods of time. Okay, so the sentence after my weather sentence is talking about climate. That's not going to help me with the definition of the word weather. So the first two sentences of that paragraph are really going to help me out. Last step, we can try different words in the place of an unknown word. So we could do this if we wanted to, but I think we have enough information to fill out what weather is. So go to our graphic organizer. We are on weather, paragraph 1, context clues. So context clues is, what does the text actually say? This is where you're going to copy and paste what the text says. So the text says weather describes. I'm not going to copy and paste that part, but what it describes is, quotation mark, the atmosphere's conditions of a certain place at a given moment in time, quote. So go ahead and copy that down in the context clues area. Okay, another thing that you can also copy into context clues is weather like right now. So what weather it focuses on is what's happening in the atmosphere right now. And that actually leads to our definition. So the definition is the atmospheric condition at a given moment in time. So the condition outside what the atmosphere condition is at a certain time. So for definition, go ahead and write down what you think weather is. We're kind of using the context clues to figure out what the word means. After we find the word, look for the sentences, write down the sentences, then you create a definition. So create a definition on your own. I've kind of talked about what I would write for my definition, but go do that right now. All right, you should have written down a definition for what weather is. So weather focuses on the things outside that is happening at certain moments in time. Okay, next word is climate. It is also in paragraph 1. We've already kind of started reading paragraph 1. We've already started reading about climate. So after the weather sentence, it says climate is different. I'm not going to circle that climate. And I'm not really I could underline is different. So climate is different than weather, but that doesn't really define it a little bit more. I'm going to continue reading. Step number 1, read the sentence and circle the word. Okay, so climate, circle, describes the average weather patterns of the place over long periods of time. Okay, so that's the sentence with the word in it. Think about what's happening in that sentence. Step number 2, describe average weather pattern. So climate describes weather over long periods of time, while weather is only what's happening at certain moments. Climate is weather over and over and over again with long periods of time. I'm going to continue reading for step 3, looking before, already did that, and after sentences. Climate describes the average weather of seasons. It also, I'm going to keep reading, it also describes possible weather extremes like tornadoes, hurricanes, droughts, and other rainy periods. Okay, that could be important, but I'm going to try and keep my context clues small to help me with the definition of the word. Okay, try different, step number 4, try different words in the place of the unknown word. I know I can't use weather. You can also do this for what doesn't work. I know I can't use weather in the place of climate because climate describes long periods of weather. Okay, so go to the graphic organizer, and for climate, we're going to write down context clues. So remember, context clues, we're copying and pasting what's written in the text. So it says climate, quotation marks, describes the average weather patterns of the place over long periods of time. Quote. Write that down for context clues. And now we are going to describe the definition. So the definition is kind of putting it into your own words, utilizing the context clues that were given. So Climate describes weather patterns over long periods of time. Write down your definition for climate now. All right, we are on the third word, which is the word measure. I can see that it is in paragraph 2, so I want you to go find, measure, and circle the word. Go. Okay, so step number 1 is read the sentence and circle the word. So I actually found measure 3 times in my paragraph. Scientists measure different weather features. They measure air temperature, and they measure the amount of precipitation. So there's 3 separate times that measure can be used. Number 2, think about what is happening in the sentences. So I'm going to read the paragraph. How do scientists track their weather patterns? Scientists measure different weather features. They measure air temperature, which is how hot or cold a place is. They measure the amount of precipitation that falls as rain, snow, or sleet from the sky. And they also measure other factors such as wind, humidity, and cloud cover. So there's actually 4 times they use the word measure. So the 4 times are important. We're kind of getting into step 3 right here. The 4 times is important that they say it because it's giving different examples of how scientists use the word measure, okay? So we're kind of getting into step 3, looking at all the different sentences within the words. What is happening is that scientists are using different things to track weather patterns. So I'm going to go back to the first sentence where it says, how do scientists track their weather patterns? One of the ways they do that is this word measure. So for context clues, go to your graphic organizer. For context clues, I would copy and paste the first sentence in paragraph 2. Quote, how do scientists track these weather patterns? Scientists measure different weather features, unquote. So you have kind of 2 sentences for the context clues. So after you're writing down context clues for measure, what we're going to do is come up with a definition. So a definition is using all this information. So we know that scientists do measure with air temperature, they measure with precipitation or how much rain falls, and they also measure like wind and humidity and cloud cover. So what does measure do? It's a way to, like our context clue, track the weather patterns and looking at different features. Okay, so for a definition, I would say track, a way to track something. A way to, and you can kind of also use like your prior knowledge of what measuring is, right? You have a measuring tape, you have a ruler, a way to track numbers for different things, and that's what scientists use. So go ahead and write a definition for measure. Okay, we are going to do the 4th word together, and then I'm going to have you do the last one on your own. So our next word is the word temperature. So go, step 1, number 1, read the sentence and circle the word. So I'm looking for the word temperature, and I found it. And now I'm going to read the sentence. It says, they measure air temperature, which is how hot or cold something is. So think about what is step number 2. Think about what is happening in that sentence. So they measure air temperature. They have a comma, and then they have the words which is. When you use the word which is, this is really important context clue stuff because it's telling you exactly what that word means. It says which is how hot or cold a place is. So for context clues, I'm already there. I already know what it is. I don't really have to look at the sentence before or after. I already know what that is. So for temperature, on context clues, write how hot or I would even say quote, which is how hot or cold a place is. Copy that down. And then you need to write a definition. So write down what the definition is for temperature. Okay, so you're gonna actually do elevation on your own. Go ahead and turn to paragraph 4 in your text. I'm gonna read it to you really quickly. We're just gonna find the word and circle it, and then you're gonna use context clues to figure it out. Land features and elevation, height above sea level, are also factors. I want you to focus on that word and use these steps to find out what that word means. All right, I really hope you did the elevation, context clues, and definition. Now, go ahead and answer the question on the bottom. It says, what is the meaning of the underlined word in this sentence? They measure amount of precipitation that falls as rain, snow, or sleet from the sky. All right, and when you're done, don't forget to log information on your homeschool log online. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you understand what context clues are and maybe have more of a step-by-step direction to solve unknown words in your reading. Tune in for the next mini lesson. Bye. Thank you.